Hello and welcome to another Kensington SEO website audit. I'm Simon Kensington and I shall be looking at this local news site to just give it an appraisal for some of the conversion factors and importantly the SEO factors, highlighting things that it's doing well and things that can be improved to make the site more visible for the content that the site owner wants to be found for. So the first thing that I'm going to ask are the three questions that kind of run through any visitor's mind. And that is, what is it, what's it about, and what's in it for me? So what is it? Well, it's a Nene local is the site. Other than that, I can see there's a collection of different articles. Some of them mean things to me because I am a local in this area, so I recognise some of these names and these businesses and these locations and that. But aside from that, I wouldn't be completely sure what this site was all about. So having perhaps taken an opportunity at the top here to give some text as by way of an introduction, not only would help Google to understand what the context of this site is and what sort of search queries it should be being found for, but would also make more sense to a visitor who perhaps is new to the area, is trying to find out, do some local research, or just really wants to understand what the purpose and how the site's laid out. So I think that would be a really helpful addition to this page here. What's in it for me? Well, again, it's a collection of articles, so there doesn't really seem to be a huge amount in it for me. From a customer's point of view, in terms of the businesses that advertise on here, there's lots of adverts, which is great. From a website visitor who might want to use some of these services, there isn't any kind of obvious call to action. There isn't any obvious kind of advantage of using or clicking on these links or anything. So there might be an opportunity there to do something to encourage a visitor to want to click on these links and visit the sites from here. It may be that there's an offer that the advertiser is giving out. It might be that there's a discount or a multi-buy offer or something. So that might help to encourage visitors to actually consume the content and click through to the advertisers, which I'm guessing they would like. Looking really over at now some of the other issues on the page, from an SEO point of view, it does go on and on and on. And one of let's do the good things first. First of all, we've got this this box at the bottom here, which is where you can click on to the additional pages. And that's great because when I look in the code, we've actually got the rel next, rel previous attributes used here, which is really important. It's because if you don't have those, then Google will tend to look at, if I can see, I did a search, it will see all of these as duplicate content, but because we've got the rel next, rel previous, you're not going to be penalized on that. So that's a really good thing to have in place, and I think that was possibly done via one of the SEO plugins, or it might be actual site itself. One of the things that perhaps I would look at doing is, and we've got these different areas here, it might be, but they kind of get lost in the content, so it might be that something can be done here to make them stand out a bit more. And I think that might be what's causing the multiple H1 tags, but we'll have a look at that in a second. So it might be an idea if we limit the number of articles that show up on the first page, and you can probably do that fairly straightforwardly through the WordPress back control panel. One of the issues is that too many links on the front page will dilute any of the links that are coming into the site. So if you've got links coming into here and you want the pages below the home page to show up well in search, you need to kind of try and control where the flow of links goes. And so we can see here that all of these are external links, and so it's really diluting any of the links that are coming in, so we're losing power here. So we could perhaps just tighten this up, maybe put fewer actual links on the home page, maybe just have these little introductions to what Thrapston and Oundle is, and then a link to the category page for this area. That may well help with that side of things and help organise the site a little bit better. Up here I've noticed that we've not got a favicon. Favicon is very important. It's these little graphics that go at the top there. It is a ranking factor, and it's fairly straightforward usually in a WordPress theme to put one in. So and there's favicon makers online where you can put your logo in and it will kind of crop it and shrink it to a 16 by 16 or a 32 by 32 pixel, which you can then just pop in there, and then it just kind of pops up, so you get these little pretty icons at the top there. So that's something that's important. Another thing I noticed from a legal standpoint is I couldn't find any cookie pop-up, and because this is a business site, or at least connected with a business, it's important that it does comply with the 2011 EU directive, so that people need to opt in. And again, you can get any number of decent plugins for WordPress which will cover that. So as soon as you get a new visitor onto the page, you get a little pop-up, usually a bar at the top or a bar at the bottom, and asking the visitor if they want to accept your cookie policy. And that leads us on to the next thing that I can't see, and that is legal the pages that are there required legally. And so there's a whole raft, depending on the business structure of your website, really depends on how many of these sorts of things are relevant. For example, if it's part of a limited company, then there needs to be limited company information on there, such as your where the business was registered, what the company registration number is, all those kind of things. If you're registered with the Data Protection Act, then there needs to be information here to do with the privacy policies. So there's a whole raft of the things that you usually see: terms and conditions, privacy, cookie policies, those kind of things. So it would be worthwhile just to add in a couple of pages. Often you'll see it in the footer bar down here. There'll be some of those kind of boring but needed, necessary legal page links. So that's important. Right, let's look at it from a technical viewpoint here. If I can just bring up my Moz tool, it pops up here. Pop. There we go. Right, so let's have a quick look at this page analysis. So this just quickly goes through the top things that need to be in place for a good ranking page. And if you think of the way in which a website ranks, is that you have your chosen keyword. Each page should have a separate keyword or key phrase, and that keyword phrase needs to be present in 4 places for the page to stand a chance of being ranked well. And those 4 places are the URL, and the URL includes any kind of pages beyond the main root domain, and then it also needs to be in the page title. So this is the bit that shows up when you hover your cursor towards the name on the tab. You get the little text box that pops up, that little that's what the page title is. So your keyword needs to be in there. Meta description The keyword should be in here as well, and this is especially relevant for when somebody is searching and your page is returned in the search listings, because if your keyword matches what the search is, then those will be bolded. And so if you can have those bolded, they stand out. And if you can make your meta description a really strong call to action, this is a free advert effectively. So it would be worthwhile to add up to, I think it's about 180 odd characters that you can pop in here as your call to action, and that will show up when your page is found. So these little bits here, you can control this text here by using a meta description. So it would be worthwhile adding that. The fourth place, or the third place that it's relevant for search, is in the H1 tag. And H1 is where you can label a piece of text as a heading. And you can get H1 tags, H2 tags, H3 tags, all the way down to H7. And if you think of it as a hierarchy, that the H1 tags are the most important on the page, and H2, 3, 4, so on, they're used to help break the document down so that it makes sense and people can understand the most important parts of the page are under the H1 tags, going down to the least important parts of the page as the H7. But you certainly don't need to use all of those, but having a good mix of H1s and H2s at the very least is a good idea. And certainly for ranking, your keywords should be present in the H1 tag. The fourth place that it needs to be in for ranking from Google's point of view is in the body of the text. And so usually if you've got like a paragraph or content on the page, then your keyword needs to be in there at least once. Depending on your competitors determines how often or what the density of your keywords should be within that content. So also when so here, for example, with the H1, we can see that we've got multiple H1 tags, and that looks like it's coming from this article here about the new salon in Thrapston. So that will probably be reflected in this post itself as well. So it would be certainly worthwhile looking at this post, but also looking at whether or not you use a snippet instead of the entire post on the homepage. And you can do that through your WordPress backend. And the nice thing about if you're changing, instead of having the full post, you change it to a snippet, is in some themes, most of them, you can actually make the snippet a bespoke piece of content. So rather than just using like the first 200 words or 200 characters, of the post, you can actually make the snippet, the excerpt, a bespoke piece of content. So that way you're getting another opportunity to use original content without running foul of having any duplicate content on your site. We've got an awful lot of H2 tags here. It's probably because of the headings that these are H2 tags. It's not too much of a problem if you've got a few of them, but where you've got lots of them, it just kind of confuses the document hierarchy and the architecture of the document. So it might be worth looking at how that's laid out. And going down here, we've got bold and italic. Now, another good thing is to make sure that your keyword, when we have it in the content, as we mentioned, was the fourth place you needed to have the keyword. You get the opportunity, you can bold it and italicize it. So if you've got your keyword listed once, I would make that bold, and then where you've got that keyword listed again, I would then put that in italics. Again, what it does is it just sends a signal to Google that this is what the page is about. It's reinforcing those signals so that Google can see, yes, this page is about such and such. So that's that. And then the other thing that we've got here, which we've got an opportunity for, is something called alt text. Now on images, Google can't read an image. It doesn't understand what a picture is yet. So you have an opportunity to add a text description, essentially, and to those images. And you can do that when you're adding them in the media panel at the back of WordPress. And so you can add in a piece of content, preferably under 100 characters, that describes the picture. If you want to be really clever about it, then if you look at your images as part of an overall page, then you can kind of play around with your keywords and similar keyword variations so that you make sure you get a good mix of keywords in those various alt texts. So here we can see we've probably got a lot of the default stuff here, as you see, that comes out of the camera, image 1462 and various other bits and pieces. So there's an opportunity there to tidy up all of the alt text on those images, and you can just sit there one afternoon, boring as it might be, and go through your media panel. You don't have to actually touch anything on the page, just go through the media panel in the back end and just add the alt text to each of the images, and that will then change those occurrences where those images are then called on each page. So for example, on these images here, you can add alt text to those. Those will also help the businesses with the advertising that they're using with you. Next thing here, page time. Page load is reasonable, 2.6. It could be a bit quicker, and as we look later on, we'll see that it's not particularly well optimized for mobile. The other issue here is it's on an HTTP. Really need to be moving over to a HTTPS, so you get that little padlock, because at the moment you get this little warning, and if you click on that, as some nervous web users do, you'll find that you get a warning pop up, and that's going to get progressively more aggressive in terms of scaring people as time goes by, because Google was going to be throwing up actual warnings saying this site is not secure. Now, for anybody who's web savvy, they'll know that we've had best part ever since the web was created, we've had non-secure sites, and it's unless you're transacting card transactions or payment details or personal detail, that kind of thing, it's not important. But Google wants to move to a safe encrypted web, so it's going to start flashing up these warnings, and it's only going to be a matter of time before Bing and Firefox and the Safari will follow suit. Getting a SSL on a site that doesn't have any kind of transactions as such is really easy. You can do it for free. You can use something called Let's Encrypt, or you can use something called Cloudflare. Now, Cloudflare is a content distribution network, which basically means that there's a copy of your site put on a really, really fast server that's then distributed around the world. So dependent on where your visitors come from, they always get served with a copy of your site that's closest to them. And so that helps your site load quickly. It also helps make sure your site's a bit more secure, because you can have denial of service and other bits and pieces on there, all part of the free Cloudflare service. And you also can easily set up your SSL. So that is certainly something that will help with speed and with the security of the site. What have we got here? Page has got reasonably good link metrics, considering it's a collection of kind of articles and adverts for a whole host of information. So it's it's got a root domain of 11 and a page authority of 26. Considering the site's at least 5 years old, with a bit more kind of careful planning of the site and a bit more security and a few more decent backlinks, you could easily bump that up. And of course, what that means is that the authority of your site then drips down to the individual posts that you have on the site, which then gives the the site more visibility over more keywords. So improving your root domain, your MOS score is something that's important. It's not a score that's that's definite. It is almost look at it as the relevance to other sites. It's more of a guide as to how your site is faring against others, rather than it's actually rated 11. When you're looking at other sites, if you check their MOS score, you'll see there might be 20, in which case that site has got more authority than yours. And if you're looking at a competitor and it's got 6, then your site has more authority than that site. So it's something to look in comparison to other sites, rather than thinking of it as a definitive score in its own right. Markup, this is important now. Using any kind of schema markup, whether that's microdata, which is code you put on your page which actually shows up at the front end, or if you use something like JSON script, which is code that you put on the page but doesn't actually show up in the front end. So the preference is usually for JSON markup, because that then doesn't affect the aesthetics of the page. You don't get any kind of odd things popping up. And the great thing about using JSON markup, or any kind of markup really, is that it enables you to tell Google exactly what your site is about. And it also enables you to link your various properties together. So for example, you can link this site with your Facebook page, with your Twitter account, and so on and so forth. And that way Google will then associate those different properties as one entity. And Google is now building an entity database where it's looking at organizations and individuals as entities in their own right, and building up a knowledge graph about them. So you can really help to accelerate Google's bringing together of all that information by using structured data to give that information. Something that's really important for here would be the geographical data, looking at your geo coordinates, looking at the address, your locations and things like that. So, for example, where you've got, I think up here you've got the various different area pages, you could have on each of these category pages, you could mark these up with information relevant to this location. And so that will help to tell Google that that's what those pages are about, that's the location that they're about. So that's really important. HTTP status, you're looking for 200, that's absolutely fine, so that's good. That's pretty much the basic kind of on page. We can look at page speed here. This is Google's own page speed test. Now yours has come up as poor. 61 is better than a lot, but it's still not what Google would consider good. And your desktop one is pretty awful. So there's an opportunity there to look at improving those. Now, why it's important to fix these is because Google is moving over to a mobile first index. And what that means is it's going to be looking at the mobile version of your site and using that as the basis to determine where you rank for both mobile searches and for desktop. So previously, and in some occasions at the moment, it's got 2 different indexes, but it's merging those together and it's making mobile to be the more dominant one, because that's where the majority of searches are coming from. So there are some fixes here that you can do. Slow server speed, you've got a massive site, huge amount of pages on there, and if you haven't got kind of top-notch optimized WordPress hosting, then you'll probably find that that's one of the reasons that you're getting slow responses. You can optimize your images. You've got a lot of images on the site. They need to be optimized. You can get a plugin like Smush It, which will help to reduce those sizes if you're not already optimizing those. You can put something like WP fastest cache or W3 total cache, which will help to cache and reduce the number of pages the page is being loaded every single time. and you can look at compressing some of the data, such as the code itself, such as the CSS code and things like that. So there's lots of opportunities there for making the site a lot faster. And again, I mentioned Cloudflare before. Although that's not that won't fix everything, it will certainly help once the site has been these issues have been attended to. Putting it on Cloudflare will really help to push that to the next level. Structured data here, we can see we've just got the website, no errors, which is good, but we've got an opportunity really to put in a whole heap more, and you can get a plugin which will help put in the JSON code into there. This is the this is the Facebook developers debugger program, and this picks up the OG data, which the Open Graph data that is attached to your site. So when somebody shares your site on Facebook, this is what Facebook is picking up. A picture of Thrapston's Loch Ness Monster. That may or may not be what you want. The text around here may or may not be what you want. So you can actually set this OG data in your site. I think you can do it if you use the Yoast plugin. There are some other plugins that you can use which will enable you to have more control over how your page, your site looks when it's shared socially. You can even have a video in here as well. So if you had a 20-second video advert of you explaining what the site is and how it can benefit not only visitors but also advertisers, then that could show up when somebody shares something or shares this page on Facebook. So that could be useful to look at implementing that, because if you don't, as it's not here, Facebook will just pick up whatever it fancies. Next one. So here we've got an opportunity to really help to tie back together this to the website. So making sure that we've got the link here. If we really want to get things sorted, we've got an address. Oops, that's not you. We've got an address here. This is your Google My Business page, and this is the address that really needs to be consistently used. This is the web site, and this is the phone number, the NAP that I mentioned at the meeting, the name, address, phone number and website. Those are the 4 pieces of information that really should be on every page of your website. In the footer probably is usually the usual place to put it, and exactly the same on all of your social properties and any directory sites that you are getting backlinks from. So if you're on some of the local business directories, it should be listed exactly the same address as it is here, same phone number and the same website address. And again, that should be at the bottom, perhaps in the footer here, so that Google can tie everything back together. And again, you can do that, have that in your Facebook profile, your Twitter profile, your Google Plus, whatever it is, Yelp, your Yellow Pages, your TripAdvisor, whatever it might be that you've got your business registered on. It needs to have that consistent name, address and phone number. We've been through these ones. Now this is your sitemap. This is what your site looks like. As you can see, we've got these various categories down here, and then if we go over here, we've got all the different date archives. Now I wouldn't usually go for date archive in your permanent structure, but because it's a new site, it kind of makes sense. So you can kind of look at that. What we have got here is tags, and there's hundreds and hundreds of these. So really we want to make sure that those aren't being indexed in Google. So if we can do right, so all of these tag pages are being indexed in Google, which is not great. So from a site point of view, and we've got 1,530 of them, which probably corresponds to the number of pages down here. So that would be one of the first things I'd look at, is de-indexing these tag pages. And if you add something like the Yoast SEO plugin, you can set that up to so that you don't archive tags or author pages or things like that, so that you don't get your site weighed down with pages that basically have got no real value, because these are all duplicate content, because this is the tag archive, so you've also got the actual post itself. So if you went over to the post, so you can see this is the post itself, and that's the URL. But if we go back, you can see that it's changed here, exactly the same content, but under the tag, so it's 2 pages. So it's also using up more of your hosting. So I de-index all of those, and that will help to sort that out. Events, just quickly, I noticed that there was an events tab on the home page, but there weren't any events listed. So one of those things, if it's not kind of being used, then it's as well not to have it there, because it just confuses visitors into thinking, well, maybe the site's not up to date, maybe it is, I don't know. And so it might be worthwhile, if this isn't properly being used, just to put it into draft for now, or just to take it off of the main menu. So I think that's pretty much. I've got a copy here of Screaming Frog, which is it goes through and crawls all of your pages, and you can see here, these are all of the pages. Now, I'm not going to go through everything here, but there's an opportunity to do some good work on improving this. Your page titles, they need to be under 65 characters. And what we can see here, this is a list of all of the ones that are over 65 characters. So we need to shorten up those. We've got meta descriptions. We're missing meta descriptions. So we need to look at adding those. Meta keywords, we don't use that, so it's good you haven't got any. H1 tags, missing H1 tags on some of these pages. So got lots of H2 tags, but no H1s. Images, missing alt text, so we've got some images that are missing the alt text, and we've got lots of images that are over 100 kilobytes, so you might like to make those smaller. So there's quite a few on-page things that we can do here to improve things. So overall, that's pretty much, in a nutshell, some of the main issues facing this website. So I hope that you found that useful. If you want any more advice, then feel free to get in touch, and I can go through and show you how you can address these issues if you should want to. So thank you very much.